Welcome back to the ProSource Podcast, everybody. Today I am joined by Rebecca Carlson. She is the owner, founder of Three Tree Design House. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is really fun to be a part of. I appreciate it.
Yes, and Rebecca is one of our Trade Pro members. And I just wanted to know, how long have you been a Trade Pro member of ProSource?
Gosh, it's been a few years now. Yeah. So
For quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So today we're just going to spend some time learning about your business, what you do, and then we'll probably dabble into some home remodeling trends and fun things like that. First, if you don't mind just sharing like a brief overview of your business, what you do, who you serve.
Yeah, so we're an interior design and renovation business. So I'm a designer and a general contractor, so we can do projects fully from start to finish. And we also offer classes. So we do a little bit where we help DIYers project plan and, give them tips and also even skills training to do work on their own homes. So that's what kind of sets us apart a little bit. And
That's
so
cool.
that's a little bit about what we do.
That's awesome. I didn't know about the classes. When did you start doing those?
That's actually a big part of, the Three Tree process. So we have our design phase, which is our first tree, our construction phase. So rough in and finish. That's our second tree. And then our third tree is really our way of giving back to the community and connecting. So we don't charge a lot for the classes. We do a lot of free things. And it's just kind of grown over time into something that, is a passion project for us for sure.
No, that's really cool. I do like the concept of like the three separate trees, them serving as three different pillars of your business. That's really cool.
Yeah. Three-sided, structures are our strongest structures. And we use a lot of trees in remodeling. So that's kind of it's a little bit of an ode to that because you got to respect and try to not waste, where you can, just remember where it's all coming from. So yeah, that's a little bit about that. And then design house, is kind of, we want to make sure that we emphasize that as the initial part of the, process. It's important to start with the plan. So.
That's super cool. And I read on your website, you have over 10 years of experience in design and then over 8 in construction. Can you share a little bit more about your personal journey in the design and remodeling industry, and then maybe lean into like what led you to start your own business?
Yeah, so I have kind of a, unique journey to this. So my degree is in technical design. So I started out basically in clothing construction. So that's where I started my design journey. And my husband, Brian, he started a handyman company because he worked in maintenance for a long time. So he knows really everything there is about repairing a house. I kind of started with him with that business. I started the business process. So I learned how to start a business through that, even though it wasn't my own, business exactly. And we didn't do a lot of design at the time, but within about a year, it's kind of funny because I was working for the biggest costume company in the world doing really fun designs like for the Star Wars film characters and things like that. And it was a really cool job, but it wasn't super like gratifying. You didn't get to see things through to completion. There, clothing is kind of a, you're kind of a cog in a machine. So I joined with him and we just did maintenance, like handyman stuff for at least a year or two before we went into remodeling and construction. So I got the, rough kind of get your hands dirty, learning of construction, learning to use a drill, learning to install things, learning about a house, how a toilet works, all the like kind of basic stuff that I never knew I wanted to learn. So, so I really enjoy it. And I didn't get to do a lot of designing. I was doing designing on the side, basically grew that over those 10 years. So I started out a little bit and then I was using Adobe Suite because of my design background to try to draw blueprints, which works because it was vector and technically CAD, but it was very difficult. And I did that for a long time. And then I got an architectural software that I learned, and I got my GC license a few years ago on my own because I wanted to have a design-based business. I wanted it to be the focus. So, yeah.
That's really cool. That is very unique. I don't know if I've heard of someone going from like clothing design to home remodeling. And that jump is pretty drastic, but it also kind of works because you're thinking about designing homes. I mean, it's very different, don't get me wrong, but I'm sure a lot of the same processes
Yeah.
kind of crossover in terms of just like having that creative eye and just being very, I don't know, like elaborate with functionality too. That's the same as clothing. You want it to be functional just like a house.
Exactly.
That's really cool. And so when you started learning all these elements of remodeling a home, things that I don't know how to do either, was that process super hard to jump into? Or I'm sure having your husband helping you was also very beneficial, but I'm
Yeah.
interested to hear about that.
Yeah, my husband is the son of two teachers. So he is like a very, very good teacher, very patient. And so that's why we still continue to do the classes too, because it really, it means a lot to him as well to, get people to learn how to do things the right way, in a way that is safe for them and is safe for their home and their investment. So that's what was nice for me. And I know that not everybody has that as an option. It was hard for sure because we did things that were, we removed hot tubs from the top of balconies. I learned to tile, which tiling is so much fun and amazing, but like the most exhausting days of my life.
Hmm.
So I feel like it was kind of like a polished rock, you know what I mean? Like I was in a
Yeah,
rock polisher and I didn't really realize it at the time. But I feel like, we're constantly becoming, more of the selves that we want to be because we're put into these pressure situations to kind of give the best result to our clients. So our handyman business had 5 stars. This business, we have 5 stars. And we're trying to maintain that because it's a very small, large town that we live in, the area that we live in. And so having a good service is literally everything for your business and have a good experience with your community and give back in a positive way. So
absolutely. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but you're out of Northern Colorado, right?
yes. Yes. So
So
yeah, and
anyone
I should have
listening,
mentioned that. I'm sorry. Yeah,
no,
we're
that's my fault
in
also. I meant to do that in your introduction. But if you're in the Northern Colorado area, if you're listening to this and you need some expertise, you have found the right place, Three Tree Design House.
yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
I also wanted to make a note too about the classes that you guys offer. I bet it's very inspirational to hear people learn about like your story, how you knew nothing really about home remodeling and all of those technical details, and now you are where you're at now and you have your own business. So I imagine that's even more inspirational for people that are attending the classes and your clients that are working with you. I bet that's really cool.
Absolutely, because I definitely had the perspective like there's no way I could ever, especially when I met my
Yeah,
husband, he would come home from work and tell me about his day, and I'd just be like, I don't know how you do this. I really don't.
yeah,
And then just kind of being thrown into it feet first, it was just, it's obviously so different now looking back on it. But I think it
hmm,
does help people to know that, you can do it in a way that, you can gain a lot of value in your investment. Um,
yes,
and in your day-to-day life you don't have to live with
yeah,
surroundings. Our surroundings have a powerful effect on us over time, so it's good to,
absolutely.
if you can't pay somebody to do it all, it's nice to be able to have that as an option.
I know you learned a lot of the technical parts of doing a home remodel. For example, do you feel like your husband learned a lot about like the design process in return? Like being
Totally.
around you, you guys kind of like swapped skill sets in a way. Do you feel like that's the case?
Oh, absolutely. It's kind of funny. We thought we would have our own lanes, but really,
Yeah.
he has a great design eye and really helps because, and I think that's what makes us more efficient because as we're coming up with the designs, we're thinking about, okay, how is this going to stay working long term? How is this going to be
Yeah.
functional? We do a lot of like layout changes. We're working on one for an upstairs primary, and
Yeah.
they're trying to move the laundry upstairs because it's in the basement. And then they have their kids' rooms, so they're trying to make sure it's not going to be too loud. And then you have, making their bathroom bigger because it's teeny and trying to fit all of that into kind of their upstairs space. And it's really hard to do that without being able to visualize it and know all your codes. And
Yeah.
as a homeowner, they want to do it themselves. So they're going to tackle a lot of the work. But without a plan, they end up wasting so much time and money to get to that end result. Not to say that they couldn't get there, but I try to save some hair pulling. Like,
my mother is a big DIYer. She's self-taught herself a lot, and what she does is great. But my stepdad makes the joke, like, we could have, paid someone to do this for cheaper,
yeah,
rather than, not every project, but some projects, because sometimes she'll just have so much fun, like changing her mind on this and that, and then they end up spending a little bit more money in the long run because she's not sitting there thinking about long-term factors, or even just like a plan on what she wants to do. She's just like, go, 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 which
yeah,
a lot of DIYers, I imagine, are like
yeah.
that, and they don't stop and like think. And I'm sure you're very helpful in that
Yeah,
aspect.
it's like trying to do a puzzle without the picture,
Yeah.
and potentially missing puzzle pieces because you don't even know. Like, it's
Yes.
very, very difficult. But I think people that have the gumption to do it, I respect that, because obviously that's how I got into this.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's where we try to help people, because most people are gonna, if they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it anyway, and
Oh yeah.
hopefully they can,
Yeah.
do it, in a way that it lasts and it doesn't, we just want to save
Yes.
people time and money. That's kind of after doing
No,
this
for
10
sure.
years, that's the best that we can, it's the best that we can
Yeah.
offer in renovation. So.
Are there any specific projects that you guys specialize in more so, or do you have a personal favorite type of space to design in the home?
For sure, yeah. So I guess basements and kitchens are kind of a close tie for me. I like the challenge of a kitchen because it's a lot of parts that go into it, and it's typically something where you have to rework a layout. But basements are like a fresh blank canvas, almost. Not quite the same as a build, but you get to really do a lot more when you're starting fresh with framing. So
I
yeah.
imagine, yeah, a kitchen would be much more difficult to remodel than a basement's usually, not all the time, but I'm picturing just like empty. People want to make it become alive. When I think of basements as like just this empty space that they don't know what to do with. Do we want to put a bar down here? Do we want to make it like a kids area, or an in-home theater? And so I feel like the endless possibilities are there with a basement. With a kitchen, you're like working with stove and plumbing and all of that, which could be probably a headache, but also a fun challenge as well.
Yeah, it's a fun design challenge for like a GC, because you can, it's not
Hmm.
just a picture, it's not just making it look beautiful. The function of it, like I have a whole meeting with my clients where we sit down and talk about, how do you use your kitchen? What appliances do you have? Where do you put them? Do you like them on the counter? Do you
Yes.
not like them on the counter? Like, do you want all drawers? How many drawers? It's important there's so many details in such a small space.
If I was going to come to you and say, I want to remodel my kitchen, let's just say, for example, could you briefly walk me through the process of what I would experience if I wanted to start a project with you all?
Yeah, so we typically start on the phone with a quick call, hear about your project, and then if you want to schedule an initial consult on site, we do a free 30-minute review of your project. You can walk us through it. We show you our software, how we kind of help our other clients. We have like video examples of our renderings and how they've turned out. So we go through some of that. And then if you want to book with us, we schedule a measurement meeting. So that takes an hour and a half to 2 hours to get it into our Blueprint CAD program. And so you get like an initial concept of your existing layout, no matter what, as a part of the design. And then we do an initial concept from there. Sometimes I do 2 to 3 layouts, depending on what we're trying to do. And then once we get to a preferred layout, we basically do a review meeting. So we go through the different layouts, we talk about what you like, don't like, and then we do a revision and come to kind of a preferred layout. And sometimes it's a little bit of a journey to get to that point. But once we do, we're kind of through the design phase, and we start to get bids from subcontractors, and we create a proposal that's flat rate, not to exceed. And then we do a contract, and we start that second tree phase, that the rough in and finish phase, which we divide basically that into 2 portions. And then after that, you have us as a warranty, as a resource going forward.
That initial phase you talked about right before like the official design process, that's more so of just you learning what the client wants, right?
Yep.
And what they're really wanting and what they're going to get the most out of the remodel. Yeah,
Yep.
I could definitely see that taking the longest. So I'm
Yeah,
sure a
it's
lot of
just
people are like, I don't know.
Well, and when we do the 3D, so like you see it because you think, okay, I think I want it this way. And then sometimes when you see that 3D in the walkthrough, it's like, oh, maybe that, we could do it a different way. And I always try to do like a devil's advocate layout. So people ask me to do it a certain way. Most of the time, they're like, can you draw it like this? And I do every time. And then I sit down and I'm like, okay, how can I make this a little bit better and give them just something completely different so that either they know that their original design is the best one, or maybe there's something that they didn't see at the beginning.
Do you have a favorite project that you have worked on recently, and why is it your favorite?
So we just finished a basement finish. It was really, really fun and elaborate. He wanted to do, he wanted a bedroom downstairs that he turned into a gym, but his main living space, he did an enormous stone wall with built-in TV and multiple dry bars. And then in the bathroom, we did a steam shower with this just gorgeous floating vanity. And everything that he picked was just very intentional. He took his time with that process and was really excited about it. And so it looks very modern and up to date and just a lot of really beautiful textures that come together. Yeah.
That does sound very cool. I want my house to look like that.
Yeah. Well, and he's a pilot.
That's goals, right?
So
yeah.
he did some really cool pilot themed, so black and white old plane artwork that I don't know if that sounds as cool as it, but it looks gorgeous.
No, yeah.
So yeah, it just turned out, it really came together well. So.
And he's adding himself into his home too, which I think is the coolest way to do it, because it's not just looking like a stock image or from a catalog. You're adding a lot of your own personality into the space, which is what he did with the plane pictures. Maybe that's not for me, but it definitely sounds like it is for him. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was. It's really cool. We always tell people to have at least one point that is, focal point, basically, that is personal to them, that's meaningful to them.
What are some of your favorite home remodeling trends that you are seeing right now in 2025?
Ooh, I can't even believe it, but I'm getting asked to do wallpaper again.
Oh, wow.
I've taken off so much wallpaper especially with our handyman company, just thousands of square feet of wallpaper. But I am actually looking at putting it back in, and I really love the boldness right now. So there's color drenching and natural textures, woods are coming back a little bit more. So I'm loving that.
Yeah, wallpaper, very interesting. It's really cool to see old trends come back around. And you're probably like, are you sure you want to put this back up? Or am I going to come back here and tear it down in 5 years?
It's so funny because, when I was a kid growing up, the neighbor that we had, he was the best wallpaper installer in Fort Collins in our area.
Oh, wow.
And now as I'm scheduling these, he's still the best wallpaper in the area and is so
cool.
Overbooked. It's crazy. Yeah. So, it's funny how things work out like that.
What is one of the biggest challenges that you see homeowners face when starting a remodel, and how have you all helped those challenges?
So a lot of the mystery of the unknown, who do I hire? How much is all this going to cost? How do I make all these selections and decisions if I don't know, what the price is and what it's going to look like? So we try to tackle that early on and without charging a crazy amount. A lot of interior designers, they have a pretty high minimum or percentage of the project. And we try to do a low flat rate entry to kind of get a good plan started.
Yeah, and I imagine that is probably what maybe scares people the most about a home remodel, is that unknown, and maybe they don't want to seem like they don't know what they're walking into because they're just a little insecure about just not knowing, right? And so I think it is important to work with a company like Three Tree Design House or anyone that really has expertise on it to make them feel like, okay, you don't know these things and that's okay. That's what we're here for. Because I could see myself being insecure about the fact oh, I don't know. It's like doing taxes, right? I don't know what's going on with my taxes, so I'm getting an expert to do my taxes for me. People need to kind of think of it the same way as doing a home remodel if they really want the most out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because some of our biggest competitors, they have that kind of, it's almost an arrogance of
yes,
should you even be calling us? Do you have enough money?
Yeah.
Before you even get to that phase, there's a lot of of that we don't appreciate, especially as we're younger business owners. So we understand that, we can't afford a massive remodel to our home. We're new home buyers, and so we really understand from a level, of most of our clients about just trying to be as smart with their, remodel as possible.
Yes.
So,
And
yeah.
realistic too.
Yeah, the scariest thing is like, hey, we have this budget, we have this big investment we're wanting to make, but like, how do we guarantee that we're not going to go over? Or how do we, plan it to a way that we're not, terrified to start? So, yeah.
What do you see as the most common reason another trade pro would come to a 3Tree Design House for your expertise in business?
Well, we work with a lot of subcontractors, especially because we do this design process a la carte. So like we work with other GCs, we work with just to give them a flat rate plan like this. So blueprints, a lot of contractors don't want to have to go through the process of selecting materials with a homeowner. Sometimes it can be very trying, especially if you can't show them their selection, the like indecision sets in and they start to panic. Am I making the wrong choice? Because I can't see it and I don't have somebody who can really tell me this. And a lot of contractors don't want to have to tell somebody what to pick. It puts you kind of in a tough position. So we take that role on for them. And then, we use a lot of good technology and software and we try to pass that information along to other people that we know and in the business world, try to make the industry, improve it as much as we can, so.
You said you've been with ProSource for about like a few years now, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of have a good understanding of how you collaborate with ProSource. And it's interesting to me because when I talk to trade pros, it's always so different from business to business, trade pro member to trade pro member.
I could definitely see that. Yeah. ProSource offers so many great services and resources for us. My husband found ProSource and told me about it. And we had a small office showroom at the time. And it was so hard for me to get good brands in and compete because our area, it's hard for the small guys to compete sometimes and be able to show those sample sets. And we like to show them in our clients' homes anyway. We don't really like to have a storefront. And so ProSource was kind of the perfect thing to help keep our overhead down and give our clients kind of this luxury service of picking their quality, reputable materials, and doing it in a way that's a great partnership. And I wasn't, I wasn't sure until I went in and met with Melinda, and she's just amazing from the very beginning. And so it was like just kind of a match from that point. And we have our clients come in and having access to the showroom, it just adds a lot of depth to our business with them. So it's been really nice and convenient.
What advice would you give to other trade professionals, business owners that are looking to either start their business or grow their business?
Lean into connecting with your community because that's something that in construction, you get so busy. It's really easy to put your head down and like focus on your clients only. But connecting with other contractors, connecting with like ProSource's network, like we've gotten so many connections of other subcontractors through them. So that can help just alone with keeping your business, more consistent with volume and all that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the events you guys hold are very smart because it's like you're dipping your toes into that community, and that's not only helping your clients learn more about the industry, but it's also selfishly helping you guys because word of mouth is everything, right? For a business. And I don't know, you're helping both sides. You're helping your clients, but you're also helping your business. I think that is a very smart thing for businesses to do, is little events or free classes like that.
Free classes are great. Even just information or Q&As, doing things where you're just getting information out there. Because a lot of people are afraid to ask. It just makes you think about things also. So I think that's good too. Get more feedback in these types of classes and learn more about what people need and learn more about what people are wanting in their home too. So it's been really, really cool. We really enjoy that aspect of it.
How do you see your business growing in the next 5 years? And do you have any exciting plans or goals set in mind for 3Tree?
Yeah, so hoping to grow our design and renovation build side. So do bigger projects. We'd like to really focus more on like the high end design if we can, because our program really allows you to reach for the maximum design without being worried about what is the cost and is this going to actually work? So we'd really like to do some bigger projects as it relates to that. And in the next 5 years, we hope to grow with our team. So we have a really wonderful team of subcontractor experts, and we have what we call our recommender team. So they're kind of our commission-based contractors that they make referral commissions by finding projects and connecting us. And so having a bigger group of those that are kind of like our little birds out there, keeping their ears open for people that need help is kind of our plan right now.
Where can listeners follow your work and learn more about working with you all if they're interested?
Well, we are on Instagram. So we're 3 Tree Design House, and Facebook. And we try to do Construction Con every year. We also just do these classes. So if you follow us on social media, we'll do announcements on when we're doing, just our little pop classes. You can also reach out to schedule private classes through our website.
I really appreciate you joining me on today's episode. It was really exciting and interesting to hear about your journey in this industry. It's very unique, like I mentioned earlier. And I also think, like I mentioned, just very inspirational. I think that if you're not born into a family that's with the home remodeling industry and you just have like a little bit of interest into it, you can do it, right? With enough passion and hard work, you can maybe find yourself opening up your own business like you did.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely be empowered to do it, because it's just step by step and learning. So I really appreciate it, Molly. I appreciate you having me on and your questions, and it was really fun. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on the ProSource Podcast. Please like and subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast. Also, follow us on social media, check out our website at prosourcewholesale.com, and visit your local ProSource Wholesale showroom for all of your home remodeling needs.